oh boy, we have a good one for everybody today, little bro.
Who are you telling? I mean, big sis, you already know that today's feature is one of my favorites.
Oh, I know, little bro. And that is where we are getting ready to share interesting facts from the biography of actress, producer, and a woman who always stands up for the rights of others. Her name is Kerry Washington.
That is right. And starting today's podcast off, the life of Kerry Washington began on January 31st, 1977, where she grew up in the Bronx, New York City, New York.
Yeah, it didn't surprise me that she grew up on the East Coast. I love her flavor and style. For example, as talented as Kerry Washington is, she began getting involved in the arts at an early age.
This sounds interesting. Go ahead, big sis.
Washington attended the Spence School in Manhattan, which was a very prestigious private school. She took part in school productions and even performed with a theater group that focused on social issues as well. Washington would go on to win a theater scholarship to George Washington University, where she earned her college degree in performance studies.
Sweet. A crazy fact about Kerry Washington's story, though, is she almost didn't go into acting.
What are you talking about, little bro?
Making sure she had multiple opportunities. Kerry Washington talked about how she majored in anthropology and sociology. She looked to get a degree in that field to give her more options.
There is nothing wrong with having a plan. A, B, C, to infinity.
That's what Granny Maxine says. You always have to be prepared. For example, one of your favorite old school films helped Kerry Washington shine on the big screen, but would also require Kerry to fall back on her education.
Are you talking about Save the Last Dance?
I sure am. Although Washington made her film debut in a movie called Our Song in 2000, one of her career breakthroughs followed in the year of 2001 with Save the Last Dance. This cool dance flick was loved by many, but no one actually knew. Behind the scenes, Kerry Washington didn't get paid a lot for doing that movie.
That is so crazy. Do you mean a movie that was so successful, like Save the Last Dance, didn't earn a lot of money for Kerry Washington?
It didn't, big sis. And that's where the liberal arts degree helped Kerry. She would use that to work as a substitute teacher, subbing in New York elementary schools to make money. The cool part about that story is when she went to substitute at those schools, kids knew her from the film and loved her. Could you imagine showing up to school one day and finding out Kerry Washington was your substitute teacher? I would lose it.
I know you would, little bro. I do have another interesting fact that people might not know about Save the Last Dance, though. It actually is about another famous entertainer from the Bronx that many people might not know who helped Kerry Washington out in preparation for Save the Last Dance.
Now this one has to be cool. Who are you talking about, big sis?
An interesting story that Kerry Washington told Jimmy Fallon on The Tonight Show was about how she had an inspiring dance teacher named Larry Maldonado. Larry worked at a local Boys and Girls Club where Kerry went to take lessons, and Larry would often have a substitute instructor that came in quite a bit. Her name was Jennifer.
Wait a minute. I know you are not about to say who I think you're talking about.
Yeah, little bro. That girl named Jennifer ended up being Jennifer Lopez, who would later go on to leave the Bronx for Los Angeles to be on In Living Color. And the rest is history.
I think I need to go to the Boys and Girls Club right now, big sis.
Relax, little bro. I highly doubt Jennifer Lopez is going to show up at the Fresberg Boys and Girls Club.
You sure know how to crush a brother's dreams. That's all I'm saying.
Calm down, Frankie. Now, continuing on, in 2004, Kerry Washington would continue to climb that mountain of success where she starred alongside Chris Rock and Anthony Hopkins in an action and comedy film called Bad Company.
That was a pretty cool movie, and one of Granny Maxine's favorites with Kerry Washington was in 2004. That is where Kerry Washington played Della Robinson, the wife of blind singer and musician Ray Charles in the biopic Ray. That movie ended up being a major success and even won Jamie Foxx an Academy Award for his portrayal of Ray Charles.
I mean, just looking at films, Kerry Washington has starred in some pretty big movies, like Django Unchained with Jamie Foxx, Lakeview Terrace with Samuel L. Jackson, and For Colored Girls starring Whoopi Goldberg, Felicia Rashad, Janet Jackson, and written by Tyler Perry, just to name a few. But in 2012, Kerry Washington's career would skyrocket in the world of television.
I know where you're going with this one, big sis. Keep going.
In 2012, Kerry Washington took her talents to the world of television to work with another Hollywood icon named Shonda Rhimes, who is responsible for hit television shows like Grey's Anatomy and more. That is where Washington played the role of Olivia Pope, a fixer who cleaned up scandals and other messes for her clients in the award-winning series Scandal on ABC.
Scandal? That's another one of Granny Maxine's favorite shows from back in the day.
It sure was. And speaking of Washington, D.C., an interesting fact about Kerry Washington is that she is related to a political icon in Washington, D.C.
What are you talking about, Bird?
Kerry Washington is actually cousins with the first African-American U.S. Secretary of State, Colin Powell.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yes, they are cousins. And also talking about being connected to another person who was an African-American icon in Black history, Kerry Washington was appointed to the President's Committee on the Arts and Humanities by none other than former President and first African-American President, Barack Obama. There she worked and helped support schools that were in areas impacted by poverty.
That is pretty amazing, big sis. And it makes total sense because Kerry Washington is such an activist. Even today, she is always speaking out in the community and online through social media.
And on that note, we are out of here, sharing interesting facts from the biography of Kerry Washington.